Alright, so we're at Crossroads, cross country, this week. We are up in northern Indiana, up in, I don't know, where in the world we were. We were north of Kokomo somewhere, Plymouth, Indiana, I think it was called. So it was a pretty good drive north for us, like, I don't know, like 3 hours and 30 minutes or something like that. And you can tell that it is hot and dusty. At our house, it was torrential rain. I actually loaded my bike in the rain to come to this race. So by the time we got here, it was hot and dirty and nasty and sticky and just the opposite of where we were. But we were running the PM race. When we decided to run this race, initially I was going to run the AM race. And by time we figured out that it actually was not a foot of water up here, it was too late for me to run the AM race. So I ran the A class and the PM race. And as you can see, I got a good start, and I'm following the leader. And he's got a really good pace going right now. I feel pretty good at this speed for now, anyway. And if you've never rode Blackhawks up here for Crossroads, it is lots and lots of sand. Way more sand than what I'm used to. And I felt pretty good in it at first, but as it got deeper and looser, I definitely, felt a little less comfortable. You got any pointers on bike setup for the sand like this, or anybody see anything they think I'm doing wrong? Feel free to comment, because I would like the input. I guess the one thing I noticed about the sand is I felt like you have to be so much more precise with where you put the bike. I mean, if you weren't exactly in the right spot, right in the rut where you needed to be, my front end would just push, and later in the race I went down several times from my front end kind of tucking and then just digging in. And so you just get, I mean, it felt like half the width of your front tire if you got it up too high in the rut. I mean, you were just, you were done. And you could not relax anywhere. I mean, you just had to stay, standing through a lot of this kind of stuff, and then just super precise on where you put the front tire. That's what I felt anyway. This particular track had a lot of whooped out sections, and along with that too, I kind of felt like maybe my bike was just a tiny bit too, soft for this track. A lot of it was really whooped out, like you see it like a GNCC race, and you kind of started seesawing through that stuff. I felt maybe just a little bit soft, but as you can tell, I'm riding pretty good right now. That's the leader in the A class, so I'm in second place, and the guy in third, I can hear him. He's on a 4-stroke, and he's actually the guy that got first. I didn't write his name down, so I can't give you his name, but he'll pass me here in a little bit. I get a little bit high in a sand berm and kind of let him by, but feeling pretty good right now. The track just is super flowy and super fun right now. I'm just trying to get used to the sand, really. As you can see, every berm is sand. There's sand everywhere up here. So we got the two strokes in the front and got the 4-stroke right behind us. The guy in third actually ends up winning the race. I'm not sure what happened to the guy here in first, because he didn't complete 4 laps, and it certainly wasn't because he didn't have the pace. He definitely had the pace to complete 4 laps. So I think that he either had a mechanical or went down or something, because he only did 3 laps. And I don't recall passing him anywhere, you know, like with him like either wrecked or, you know, stuck or something like that. So I think he might have had a mechanical. But he's running a really good pace, and he's nice and smooth. I'm just trying to kind of follow his lines and kind of learn how to ride in the sand. Right there, just that little bit of being too high in that rut, man, and it's all you can do to fight it. And there you see right there, I didn't really get my bike laid over, and there goes the guy that's in third. He's now in second. It puts me in third. It's like I was riding real confident for like the first, well, let's see, that was, I didn't pay attention to what that mile marker was, but here at the beginning of the race I was riding real confident, and it just seemed like later in the race, you know, after a few mistakes, I kind of lost some of that confidence and wasn't quite riding as smoothly as I should have been. And of course it was hot this day too. It was hot, really hot and dusty, so you're kind of dealing with that. So just trying to keep up here for a while. I guess the sand is, you would call it kind of technical riding, but you know, I'm definitely just better at the hard technical riding, like the stuff like the rocks and roots and stuff like that. Just haven't, quite frankly, rode the sand a lot like this. So it was definitely a good experience to come up here and ride this race. Definitely going to try and make a couple more Crossroads races. Not sure if I'll try to race this A class next time. Kinda had to ride it this time, but yeah, riding this pace for 2 hours was pretty tough. See, just kind of keeping these guys honest right now, looking for a mistake or something like that to maybe sneak back by, but I can tell these guys are very experienced and probably not going to make any mistakes. There's a couple of these sections that have a little bit of whoops in them. That one wasn't too bad, but some of them, you know, for you guys that rode the track, you know, some of the whooped out sections were pretty good. Kind of feel like I'm catching him a little bit here now in the really tight stuff, or at least keeping him close. Back into the open stuff here now. The grass track here, a lot of it wasn't much grass. There's grass here because I think we're close to the woods, but when we once we get out into this open, you can see it just turns to sand. And almost all of these turns were just really, really deep sand. So you'd have big sand turns going into just hard pack kind of looped out sections. At this point, I'm still feeling pretty good with the way that I'm riding, but yeah, later on it definitely tapers off a little bit. Big, wide, sandy turns. That was kind of the hard part for me, is never having been here before. Really kind of knowing how long and sweeping the turns were versus a tight sandy turn, because you would just have to attack them completely different. Yeah, See that? Front end just kind of starts pushing around. And that guy, I don't think he's in our class. I think he's one of the faster B riders from one of the rows behind me. But there again, we get into the technical stuff, you know, the harder stuff, and I didn't have any problem keeping up with a lot of the guys, but once we got out into that open, and especially the sandy stuff, yeah, I let a guy by here. He was riding with that other guy, but when we get out into that really soft stuff, and especially later in the race, man, I just didn't quite have it figured out as much as I would like to have had. I think bike setup was definitely a little bit of it. Yeah, just struggling through a sand turn again. Liked this section of the track here where it kind of started getting some elevation. A lot of the track didn't have almost any elevation, so when we got into a couple of them little sections, at least it had a little bit of hillside there to ride on. And I think we go back out into some open area here. It's definitely a nice piece of property for it. It was a big piece of property and a lot of area, a lot of room. I think this track was like 10 or 11 miles, something like that. It was definitely a long course. Generally at OXCR, if we get 7 miles, we're lucky. It's usually seems like it's usually about 6 miles. So the long course definitely felt more like a GNCC. And since there's an AM race and a PM race, there wasn't a lot of people on the track, so we weren't passing a lot of people, and you didn't really get passed by a lot of people. Yeah, if you got any ideas on bike setup on what you do for the sand. You know, if you know you're going to a sand track, I'd be curious what you do, if anything. I kind of felt like I needed my front end to sit up a little bit higher. I don't know, I could be completely wrong about it. I'd have to try it, but I kind of just felt like my front end was pushing because the turns were so deep and so long. So I don't know. I'd have to talk to the boys over at Pro Tunes there and see what they think. So at this point, the two leaders they've pulled out on me just a little bit. I was looking at the lap times, and I think they ran about a minute faster than me, so they were just slowly pulling out on me, you know, pretty much the whole lap. But a minute or, you know, a little bit longer isn't that bad because it was such a long lap time. I mean, I think the lap times were like 31 minutes. So, you know, losing a minute or two to the guys who really know how to ride in the sand, I didn't think that was horrible. Considering that this is really the first time I've ever really rode in sand like this. One thing that was nice is you don't really see a lot of ruts. I think generally what would happen is you'd kind of go through the sand, and then the sand would kind of almost just like fill in the rut where you just were. So I I mean, that back there, this type of rut right here, I mean, this is about the worst you had. So, you know, just the opposite for us in the mud, where you'd have, you know, 50, 60, 70 foot long ruts. You know, here, ruts really didn't really seem to form. And, you know, this is the PM race. So, no big ruts like you would have in a mud track. See that? Just kind of blew that turn. Just, you know, at this point, probably just not concentrating enough, quite frankly. Big pro line. I think there was like 15 pros. So that was kind of cool to see you know, a huge pro line like that. I know the Sims brothers, I think they're brothers. Matt, I think the other guy was Daniel maybe. I know they ride in this Crossroads series a lot. And there was I don't remember his name right now, but there was a Red Bull, factory Red Bull rider, I think. The guy from Chile. Pretty good group of pros that were here. Zach rode pro, and he placed 7th. But, you know, Zach was running into the same issue I was, is that we were just both pretty new to this sand. And so here's my first kind of screw up here. Didn't really expect that turn to be so sharp. So we came around that tree and you know, dug the front end in a little bit, and you know, a lot of B riders right behind me, so I got passed 3 or 4 times when I ditched it in that turn, and kind of feel like this is where my confidence was starting to wane a little bit, you know, after that first little fall down there, and there you go, just, you know, missed that berm again. Trying to get settled back in after falling over, and then we had this big looped out section, which was a lot of fun, but I just felt like my bike was set up just a little bit too stiff for it, or I mean too soft for it. Definitely a good time though, good experience for sure. Stuff got really tight, which I liked. Yeah, this section here was pretty tight. There might have been one other section, but this one was nice and tight. A lot of little quick turns, weaving through the trees. And you can tell again that the track is really not broke down. And even toward the end of the race, you know, the track really did not break down like you would have expected it to. This kind of stuff here, you know, you kind of want to be standing up in attack position. You know, this guy in front of me is sitting down a lot, so I'm easily keeping up with him in this stuff. But then in the more wide open stuff is where I think maybe I normally am just a little bit slower than a lot of people. And you got to remember too that I'm old. So there we go, right there. So just came over that hump, and you can could see my front tire was just a little bit left of where it should have been, and it got in that really deep sand and just knifed in and cut, and I didn't have a chance. So that's kind of what I meant when I said earlier you just had to be like so precise on where you put your front tire. I mean, this stuff right here is so deep. Felt like you had to kind of sit back a little bit further than what you normally sit, and probably keep the power on a little bit harder than maybe what I normally do. So I think that's probably where I was struggling a little bit. Gotta love this stuff like this. It looks like just pure single track, you know. I mean, it's probably wide enough for a four-wheeler. I guess they ran the four-wheelers on the same course, but with the bikes running first, it sure makes it nice. Kind of tell that the guys who are passing me aren't flying by me. You know, I mean, generally when a guy passes me, I can kind of keep him honest a little bit. So just off the pace, just a little bit, not way off, but just enough. I ended up third place in, I guess they called it the Super Senior A. That's what they ended up calling it. But then again, I'm not really sure what happened to number 6 there that was in the lead. Real tight through here. Starting to get bunched up, it looks like, a little bit. One little wet area there. You know, we really didn't even have to wash the bikes when we got home. You almost could have just blew them off with a air hose. Still fighting that powder. Just not quite experienced enough in the sandy stuff to be able to keep up the way I should be. I would imagine the tires for a course like this also really matters. I don't know what tire you would normally run in a track like this. If this would be a full sand tire, or if this would be, you know, more something close to like what I'm running. But I think tire choice would make a difference here too. Yeah, getting out in that soft stuff. That's the problem. This section of the track here was really cool because some of this section over here was more felt more like dirt than it did the sand. We're actually getting into some black dirt here. So I felt a little bit more at home on this kind of stuff than the all-out sand. I liked these woods over here. Look at that, another little muddy section. That was about the only two little mud sections in the whole track. So I feel like just watching my pace, I can tell that I'm just a little bit slower than what those first 3 or 4 miles when I was riding with those other two guys in my class. I think I was riding just a little bit faster than them, or a little bit faster then than I am now. But I'm actually more focused on learning at this point than racing. I'm just trying to learn the sand and body position, and I think what I was kind of struggling with is I was sitting actually a little bit too far forward. I kind of feel like in a mud track, you know, you'd be a little more forward, and in a sand track you'd sit just a tiny bit further back and have a little bit more power on is kind of what I feel like. Duck back into the woods here a little bit, I think. More sand. Yeah, see, now I just completely failed to commit to that inside berm there. And you can see I just, once you get up a little bit high on that sand, you're not going to make it back down. I had to just leave the track and then come back over, and you get up in them get up on top of them berms, and it's, you know, you're pretty much done for. These fields here were pretty choppy. And the fact that it's pretty dusty doesn't really help a whole lot. So you can't really see really clearly what's coming. Just didn't get it leaned over. Live scoring up here at Crossroads, which is nice. You could go through scoring and see your position, and showed your number. And I think it was showing the time between, you know, the guy ahead of you and you. When I was cutting through there, I didn't really felt like I had time to read all of it. I kind of just paid attention to the number to make sure that it was actually me and my position, and I never really looked that closely at the time to the next guy, because quite frankly I wasn't riding all that confidently. So because of that, I I was happy where I was. I didn't feel like I was going to try and push and try and catch those guys again. I guess I'll say it that way. Alright, so we're coming up to the pro line, and a little embarrassed about how I did it the first time here. So, you know, I knew that the pro line was coming up. I had never seen it. And so I see it here, and I didn't expect there to be such a little run up to this drop. By the time I kind of felt like I turned the corner and seen the ledge, I was like literally already on it. And so at that point, I didn't want to try to jump off of it, so I kind of rolled it the first time, and you know, some of the fans ripped me a little bit. That's okay, I deserved it. But I got some bonus footage. Yeah, little double there, and I'm not so sure that was any faster, but so I got a little bit of bonus footage here. The rest of the race, I did take the pro line and I did jump it, you know, just to prove that old men can still do it. But we're coming up to scoring now, and then after scoring, I just got a little clip at actually jumping the pro line. Alright, so we're coming up to scoring here. So it looks like just the timer at that point. Okay, so here's the pro line of me actually jumping the pro line. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is probably lap 3 or 4.